Welcome back to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Jasmine Urbina here in the studio with my dad, Alex Urbina, and our very special guest, Maggie Ramirez from the OHM Peace Center. And we're talking about a women's workshop she has going on. You want to go ahead and ask her your question?
We were talking about the Feminine Face of Leadership retreat that you guys are doing in the next couple weeks. And one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, what are some of the biggest aha moments that most women have when they're inside participating in this retreat? You've been doing them for a few times and you've had your own experience. Kind of take me through that. What are a couple of the golden nuggets that just start to open up? Like, what are the realizations or the clarity that some of the women get?
I think the most powerful one, I would say, is women that are mothers of daughters, and seeing what they have shown to their daughters to be the truth of women. And when they are so passionately trying to shift that within themselves and feeling like, is it too late to fix what I've done? And being that example to my daughter that the masculine energy is where they need to go to get things done, to matter, to be seen in our society. I think that we've been doing it for so long, and I can tell you, I was one of them. I don't know how my husband still stuck around, because I'm telling you, I was that kind of a woman that, and I've always been very strong and independent. My personality is a very strong personality as it is, but as I went out into society and as I began to move in that space, I came into the conclusion that I needed to be this very in-your-face type of person, attitude, because it was a tough world out there, and I was, going into the jungle. And so I had to be always, protected and defensive. So before anyone even went there, I was already there, and I was already putting out the hand and making sure that they didn't cross that line and letting them know. So that roughness and toughness, the reason I became that is, and the excuse that I gave myself is that the world made me this way. Society made me this way. People made me this way.
Or you needed to be like that.
Yeah,
to
that I had
get
to
a certain
survive.
result. Right.
And so in order to survive in this jungle, I had to be that, and I hated it. Oh my God, I hated it so much because it wasn't who I was. It wasn't my authentic self. But I had to become that because I didn't know any other way to survive in this world.
Well, you thought you had to become that.
Exactly. That's the only way I knew how to be. But I didn't want to be that. And I thought that if I was my true self, my soft self, my kind, loving self, people would just take advantage of it because they did in the past. And so I didn't know how to be that without being able to have, boundaries and limits where I get to speak and step into my power, and still within my softness and kindness and a loving way of being, saying, you don't have permission to go there with me. It was just like, in your face. And so when I understood that I can still be my loving, kind self that I am, and yet still stand in my power, hold my ground, and say, this is where you can go and this is where you cannot. And I don't give you permission to go there. I understand that you've got your thing going on and you got your own little demons to deal with, but I don't have to go there. I don't have to experience that, and I don't give you permission to treat me a certain way, to speak to me a certain way. And so when I understood that, when I was able to step into my own power and understand that I could shed all of that, all those layers of toughness that it's like this bodysuit that I had, to protect myself. And I was able, I freed myself, and I began to truly enjoy life in a different way, knowing that I can just be me, my authentic self, without without needing to go there to be okay and to be protected, and knowing that really truly I could move mountains by being my true self and being true to myself. Well, that's one of the things I think that this, talking about authenticity is, authentic self and true love and with your community is just being you, and it's okay to be your true self, and all of those layers that you've masked yourself with for so many years, you could let go of that, and there is a way.
Now, let me tell you what I'm hearing you say. What I'm hearing you say is that you realized that you being defensive and having to defend yourself or to prove yourself and surrendering that game, and finally realizing that all it took was for you to get some clarity about who you are, get some clarity about what you deserve, get some clarity about your own self-worth. When you would come from that place or be that worthiness or be that stand, the words, "you don't get to speak to me like that," or "you don't have permission to speak to me like that," was powerful enough. Instead of the resistance to, "why are you doing this?"
Attitude.
All the pushback that you were doing, the defensive, the trying to muscle them, to control them, to not treat you that way, was probably so exhausting.
Yeah.
And so challenging, because you never got the result. Rather than working on within yourself and finding that personal power, the words, "you don't get to treat me like that," is so powerful when you own it.
Yeah.
When you're coming from, "I love myself so much that you don't get to speak to me like that," is so 10 times more powerful than all the other games that your ego was playing to try to muscle or force somebody not to say those negative things to you. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And the power of a word, and the power of your confidence, as a woman.
But it's not just the words, it's who you decided to be when you were saying those words. It was the come from.
Yep.
It was the redesigning of yourself. It was realizing that you're worthy. And that whole process of personal growth that needed to have taken place. And there's no better place that I know than in a training room.
Yeah.
Especially with powerful trainers that, that understand the distinctions and that have mastered that, especially like Betty Spruill. Getting in a room with her, it's there's going to be magical breakthroughs all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. We call her the Oracle. and
well deserved too.
Yeah, very well deserved. And she laughs about it, and she says, "Oh, it's for a different reason," but she doesn't really truly understand that the power that she holds, just her presence in the room. And she's a renowned trainer, traveled the world and has done so much for humanity as it is already, and being able to be in the room with her and to just experience her and her wisdom and what she's done for so many different communities, and especially for the feminine community. And her interest in right now is so huge within coming together and bringing powerful women together. And that's one of the reasons why I say that this feminine face of leadership and power is to bring powerful leading women in our community to come together and to even take their lives onto a whole nother level. They're already moving. We've had, many entrepreneurial women, women that are presidents of nonprofits, school teachers, principals. These women that are touching lives on a daily basis, trainers, coaches. These women are out there. They are doing things, but we get to recharge. I used to tell Betty, we need to at least do this at least twice a year, because we get to go back into that world where it's very masculine. And so we get, a little drifted. And so coming back, and gathering again with these women and softening up our lives, going back, home, and, the way we we are with our husbands and the men in our lives, it shifts, it shifts. And being able to, again, step into that feminine power, knowing that you don't need to be aggressive, you don't need to be forceful, you don't need to be controlling, you don't need to be inauthentic to your true self as a woman, I think is very powerful. And just to remember that and to recognize that and to recharge ourselves in that space and that energy is truly life transforming. And it's been every time I go, and just to see the women transform in just that one weekend and being able to go back into their lives. And we have the mother-daughter packages. That's also very powerful. We've seen huge impacts in lives with mother and daughter being there and being able to speak their truth and share themselves as to what it was to be raised a certain way, and thinking that a woman holds this, this particular place in society. And sometimes I call it the cookie cutter, where society says that this is what a woman is and this is the place that they hold, and so they all try to push, shove us into this cookie cutter. And we're so different, we're so diverse, and we all have different talents and gifts to provide to society. And if they just stop trying to put us into a mold and make us all like this uniform being, and allow us the freedom to just be our authentic self and share our true gifts that we have and our purpose in life, then we can begin to see our communities change and transform and soften up, because everything right now is just so in your face, and so all the edges are kind of rough, and our children are being raised to believe that that's how it is and that's how it should be.
I love that you guys have that mother-daughter package, because the way I imagine it is a mom going by herself and having really powerful breakthroughs, and then going back home and wanting to either share it with her daughter or kind of mend that relationship, or make it look a certain way, and her daughter's either unreceptive, because I'm imagining a teenage daughter or young adult daughter who's unreceptive and really distant from that mother. And I think if you're thinking about going to this workshop or doing any type of work, take your daughter with you, even though you haven't tested it out yet. Just do it anyways, because it's going to be a lot more impactful, because they are also going through it with you, and they feel it and they understand where you're coming from, versus you coming home from a retreat and then trying to
preach.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's something powerful about the experience, and then both of you experiencing it together. Earlier as you're painting the picture about this training or the retreat, I'm visualizing the words you're using as speaking to like women leaders. There are going to be women leaders there, and it's all about women leadership. But there could be women out there that don't see themselves as leaders, and they're not excluded. They're invited to come and explore the possibility that you are a leader. You just don't know it yet. You haven't seen it. You haven't been exposed to it. You haven't identified it. And that's the purpose of this weekend, is so that you can see other women just like you.
Yeah.
And those women weren't always that full developed leader that you think that were born like that.
Yeah.
It took them to have some courage, just like you, to show up to one and all of a sudden have that awareness, have that breakthrough to go, I am that, or I want to be that.
Yeah.
And then start that journey, right?
Yeah, it's awakening that feminine power within. It's super important. We all have it, and every woman senses it. You might not know how to tap into it. And so to be able to be surrounded by other powerful women in your community for that one weekend, and to dive into that, God's self within, that energy, that possibility of growing that. And remember, it's not just for one weekend. Yes, we are together that one weekend, but that's why we break out in teams for 5 weeks, so that we work together into achieving that. Now, these women that are already doing so much in their communities, there's still work there's always work that we can do within ourselves to take our life onto a whole nother level all the time. The moment that you think you've reached it and that you're there is the moment that your ego is just taking over. And the moment that you awaken to yourself knowing that there's always a better version of yourself just waiting for you to take your life onto that.
Well, I always say you never get there.
Yeah.
Because
where is there?
Well, there keeps moving.
Right.
Because when you see there and work really hard to get there, and you finally go, "Great, I'm here." Well, guess what? You're not there, because there, when you look up, is another version of there. Yeah. So it keeps moving. We don't ever get there, but it's in the journey where you start to reinvent yourself. That's the exciting part, is looking back at all the older versions of you, like Alex 2.0, and just being just kind of like having a big smile on your face going, man, I'm so grateful I'm not Alex 2.0 anymore. You know,
Right.
just it's what a rewarding feeling knowing that you put in the work, you gave yourself permission. And earlier you said, you know, sometimes it's like we don't know how to have that breakthrough. This is one of those moments. The training room and the transformational work is designed to be a tool to show you how, to give you a glimpse, to light a fire inside your soul, to do whatever it is that you need to do to challenge you, to have that awakening and that awareness. That's what this is.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you got that knee shake, or you are considering that I should go, don't let your ego and all your fears talk you out of not going.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor, shut the brain off, listen to your spirit, your heart, make that phone call, sign up, put a deposit down, whatever it is that you need to do to trick yourself to showing up that weekend. Because that's the hardest part, is getting yourself, having your butt sitting in the chair when it's 10 o'clock and the retreat starts. That's the magical moment. That's worth all of it right there, is just getting yourself there.
Yeah, and there's excuses. Anything could be an excuse for not doing something.
All day long we got them. All day long.
And another thing I want to say is, you were saying a little bit, Dad, earlier about how women who don't see themselves as leaders, might not be considering this, but if you are a woman at all, you have some type of role in the community, whether it's with your kids, your job. One of the things I really imagine is teachers. If you're a teacher, especially a female teacher, I think you have most unlimited potential to influence young girls ever. I know a lot of my growing and I guess who I am and what made me a leader in the community, or hope to be a leader in the community, is my female teachers. And I think that if they don't have I guess that leadership ability, which all people have, but if they're not utilizing that leadership ability, it's such a, I don't want to say a waste, but it's such an
missed opportunity.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity. And so if you're, this is not just targeting teachers, but if you're a teacher or any type of counselor or something that has to do with kids, especially young girls, go to this. It's it's no question about it. There's no way you're going to walk away and not be blown away, excited, ecstatic, ready to get, your students or whoever it is you work with excited about it.
Yeah, and our young daughters or our young ladies in our community, if you're 16, this is perfect for you. When I was 16, let me tell you, I was.
We're gonna save that story for when we come back from the break, because we want to know about you being 16.
All right.
All right. Stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to My Conscious Dad on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. If you're just joining us today, we're here with Maggie Ramirez from the Divine Feminine Academy, talking about the feminine face of leadership and power retreat. And before we went on the break, you had a quick story you wanted to tell about when you were 16.
Yes, well, I want to make it clear that it's important for 16-year-olds to come and participate and be around all these other powerful women, because they get to see what is available to them. And I wish I had that when I was 16, because I was in a different
world. I feel
world.
like everybody I've ever met in the training, empowerment workshop kind of thing has said, if I knew about this when I was your age, kind of thing, when I was younger, they all say that.
It's true, because we're all these powerful spiritual beings living this human experience, and so our spirit doesn't age. We're this being, right? And just this body is growing as the days go by, but that being within ourselves is very conscious and aware. And so I was very conscious and aware at that age. I was beyond my years. And I had no one to talk about. I had so many questions about life. I had so many thoughts about my purpose here and why was I here. But because I was so beyond my years, I had no one in my circle of 16-year-olds to talk about. Every time I wanted to talk about spirituality and meditation and religion, they're like, okay, there she goes again.
Eyes, yeah.
Like, I can care less. Like, have you, the kids on the block and all that stuff. And I was like, I can care less about that. Let's read, all these powerful and spiritual books that I was all into. So I didn't have it. I didn't have a community to go to. I remember I started working when I was 16 because I said I could. And my mom would say, like, why are you going up there? I was a salesperson going door to door at 16 because I said I could.
Can you imagine all the other kids out in the world that are old souls like you were, that are yearning for that but don't know how to say it or don't realize it's around? And you as a mom or a dad, it's your job to see if you can identify that you got these spiritual kids that can tap into that enlightenment at an early age, and they want it and they're yearning for it. They just don't know it's out there.
Yeah.
And you're the conduit to it. You're the one that's saying, no, you don't want to do that stuff. Or, hey, honey, how about if I buy you this ticket and you go? Or how about I go and you go with me?
Yeah.
Your job is to introduce your kids to all things.
Yes.
So that they can explore to try to find their divinity and their greatness.
Yeah.
And what if this could be it?
Yeah.
And you're in the way of not introducing that to them.
Yeah, and at that age, it's such a defining time, when we're searching and we have questions of who we are and why are we here and where am I going? And to have powerful leaders to support you and saying, hey, imagine a 16-year-old in a group of women for the next 5 weeks, empowering them and showing them what is out there or the mistakes that, they've made and, what they can see life and how they can see life differently. I can just imagine myself. I used to, when I was 16, I used to ride the bus to work, to school. And so I would sit down next to older folks and I would ask them about their lives because I wanted to know what they've been through and the mistakes that they've done and how they overcame that. So I would always put it, in the back of my mind, say, what, if that ever happens to me, I know how to, I already know. And so I always wanted to be more like a few steps ahead of everything, because my mind just worked differently and no one around me really saw that. And no one was able to like really say, hey, let me, introduce you to this, community that can support you and understand that, your God self within, is speaking to you all the time.
See, and this is why I'm always, on my little soapbox preaching to parents saying you need to work on yourselves to become more conscious and more aware, because you're missing certain things that your kids, they innately need from you. They need you to be aware and notice those things to direct them in those places. And if you're not getting yourself out of the way or moving yourself up the ladder, you're not supporting them in the way that their spirit really needs to be supported.
Yeah.
And so it's just another way to point that out and kind of, highlight it again.
Yeah. And speak to these, these 16-year-old, young ladies as they are. They're 16-year-old young ladies that are, that are going to impact our world. There are a future and that could be the next president. And by being able to hold them in that space and saying, you are a very powerful individual and you are in training right now and you are going to transform this world. You could transform this planet. And if you surround yourself, your nucleus, with powerful people already, there's no saying what you can achieve or what you're going to do.
And maybe that 16-year-old girl is you in a 40-year-old body and a 50-year-old, life. I think there's a little girl in all of the women that are listening that is yearning for, hey, I want to go back and teach that inner child how to be amazing and be worthy and be all those great things. Look, we only have a few more minutes, so tell us how to sign up for this retreat. Where do we go? Give us all the goodies for that.
You can find us pretty much everywhere. You go to Facebook and you tap into the Feminine Face of Leadership and Power or the Divine Feminine Academy, and you'll be able to find the events page. You can go to our website, which is thedivinefeminineacademy.com, and you can register there. You can contact myself or contact my business partner Raquel to process your enrollment. And because you're listening to this show, we can give you a 10% discount.
We love discounts.
Yeah, a 10% discount. And if you're a mother, daughter, even more, contact us and just let us know that you heard us on this show. And, we will bend ourselves backwards to just make it happen and have you be there and experience this, because it is truly life transforming.
So for those people that live out, on an island somewhere that don't have contact to civilization with the internet or the Facebook or any of that stuff, and they do have a cell phone, what's the number we can call to get a hold of?
You can call me. Go ahead and call me. My number is area code 323-434-3429. 323-434-3429. Maggie Ramirez. Let me know that you're interested in being part of this, and we'll make it happen.
It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, and your light is shining so bright. I see you. I acknowledge you, and I'm so happy that you came. Thank you so much. Appreciate you
so much.
Thank you, everyone, for listening and joining us today on My Conscious Dad with me, Jasmine Urbina, and my dad, Alex Urbina, and our special guest, Maggie Ramirez. We're here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.